Welcome. I'm Sherry Wilson, founder of the Institute for Health and Social Equity, and thank you so much for supporting our third annual scholarship fundraiser. Witnessing the marginalizing effects of inequities in my own environment growing up has driven my life's work to improve the health and social equity of vulnerable populations and underrepresented groups. At the Institute for Health and Social Equity, we believe one's zip code or income level should not be a determinant of access to health or social or career opportunities. Since our inception, our focus has been on reducing health disparities through the promotion of a more diverse workforce in fields such as nursing, public health, medicine, and STEM. Our scholarship program has supported the college education of historically underrepresented students pursuing majors in these areas. And I am happy to report that the college retention rates of our scholars have remained at 100%. This is critically important because of the extremely high rate of attrition among minorities that major in health, science, and STEM fields. Please join me in the continued support of historically underrepresented students pursuing careers in these fields using the information at the bottom of the screen. Please text Equity44 to the number at the bottom of your screen. In today's program, we are honored to spotlight Dr. Patricia Ramsey, who is the 6th president, the first woman, and the first scientist to serve in the role of president of the historic Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, New York. Dr. Ramsey will share a little bit about her career journey, her strategies for promoting engagement for aspiring STEM and healthcare leaders, and the role Medgar Evers College continues to have in creating innovative solutions to advance health and social equity. You'll also hear from our STEM ambassador and hidden figure, Dr. Marian Johnson. Our scholars will provide you with some personal updates, and you'll also hear from our multidisciplinary panel, brought to you by the following sponsors: Mr. Carlos Huertas and Ruth Amador, Mr. Harold Wilson, and Mr. and Mrs. Frank and Marian Johnson. The panel will discuss actionable strategies for academic success, career advice for those pursuing opportunities in health and STEM fields, and awareness of career paths in these areas. We hope you enjoy our program, and again, we appreciate your financial support through sponsorship or donation, texting the word Equity44 to the number at the bottom of your screen. Thanks again.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Marian L. Johnson, STEM Ambassador for the Institute of Health and Social Equity, Inc. I'm also known as a hidden figure for the work that I've done with the Boeing Company and NASA in contributing to the first successful manned lunar landing, 1969. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate our scholarship recipients for a job well done in achieving this scholarship. I would also like to thank my daughter, Dr. Sherry Wilson, for her vision to start the Institute. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself because I started out at an early age. I had a passion for math. My 7th grade instructor, Mr. Walter B. Simmons, who later became my mentor, encouraged me to pursue math as a career, stating that we're going to need women in the future. So my hopes and outlook for my STEM professionals are very exciting and opportunity-based. My message to students, as always, reach for the stars. And maybe you just might land on the moon.
Hello everyone, I am Alexa Anson-Georgie. I am a student at Tennessee State University here in Nashville. I am a pre-nursing student with a women's studies minor. I aim to become a midwife and start my own women's center to assist domestic abuse victims, specifically pregnant women. I want to be the person who advocates for healthcare inequities for minority women. I also want to make a positive impact on minority women's birth mortality rates. This scholarship has helped me pay for my sophomore year's first semester. When it comes to paying for education, being raised by a single mother hasn't been easy when it comes to paying for school. So I'm very grateful to have been chosen as a recipient of this scholarship. I'm also honored to be a part of something that promotes a topic that needs to be spoken more about. Never give up no matter what challenges you face. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for my perseverance. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I am so honored to have with me Dr. Patricia Ramsey, president of Medgar Evers College in Brooklyn, New York. Welcome, Dr. Ramsey. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to share this afternoon.
Absolutely. So Dr. Ramsey, you are the 6th president of Medgar Evers College, the first woman and the first scientist. You have had an illustrious career, academic journey and professional journey, and you have just been such an inspiration and influential to women and women of color. So again, I thank you for being here. I want to ask you if you can talk a little bit about your career journey and the challenges that you faced along the way.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That's quite a question. Well, one of the things that I would like to share, I grew up in rural Surrey County, Virginia, and we had a biology teacher that challenged us. And it was because of that teacher that 5 of us majored in biology in undergrad school, where I went on to Norfolk State University. And there I had a professor as a freshman who challenged us even more because he required that we get articles to help him with his publications. And so that's what originally got me very interested in research and pursuing graduate degrees. A wonderful education at Norfolk State. And as a matter of fact, in my PhD program, one of the professors said, "Where did you get such a strong background in genetics?" And I was proud to say Norfolk State University. But being a female and being a woman of color, and particularly an African-American woman, it met its many challenges. Oftentimes I was the only Black person or the only female in many of the audiences in which I found myself. But because of the strong, I would say, foundation that I received through my parents and my dad, always testing me and saying, "Pat, whatever it is that you believe, you stick with it." And so he would do these challenges. And so therefore in school, I would ask just a lot of questions. And I never allowed myself to feel lesser than. I would always find ways to be able to advance, I would say, the cause of my people. For a while, I felt I was carrying the weight of my people on my back, but that was just too much weight, I realized. And so I said, well, I'm not the only one out here that's doing this. But what it did for me is to say that you need to try to make a way for others. And so for me, it's always been about what can I do to make a difference. after receiving my PhD, I went into full-time teaching, and in that role as a professor, I would always say to my students, is there anything you've ever wondered about? And if there is something that you've wondered about, if it's something that you truly can test, then I think you should explore your wonderment. And so I borrowed that idea, actually, that whole wonderment word, which is not really a word, from a friend who says, well, just, we students don't explore their wonderment enough. And so I started first with students that were in my class. And these students were in my botany class, and I said, well, is there anything you've ever thought about that you've heard people say, but you didn't know the answer? And so, of course, the answer is yes. And so I never will forget when we were talking about, and you connect things in history, when you think about Harriet Tubman and how she came north, and you heard the stories about, well, you know that the moss grows on the north side of the tree. And so the students say, I've always wondered about that. And so then they went out and they actually checked a number of trees on the campus and discovered, well, it is true that the moss grows on the north side of the tree, but they also discovered that if the trees are very close to salt water, the moss grows on the opposite side. Because of course, the plants have a way of making sure that they survive. And so that is really a way of the plant protecting itself. So with moss, because they need water in order for them to be able to reproduce themselves, then it puts itself in an environment where they will have the moisture that they need. So little things like this. And so they started wondering about all kinds of things. Well, you have these Ivy League institutions. Is it really true that it's the ivy, and what does the ivy do to the buildings? All those types of things my freshman students would ask. So I decided, okay, I don't have any graduate students to work with me. I'm going to use my freshman and sophomore students as my research team. And so I had about 5 students. Did not choose them based on them having A's, but choose them based on them having an interest in the research. And so those young people were phenomenal. We went all over the nation with them presenting papers. Whatever question that they had, we would try to make sure that they were able to respond to whatever that question was. And so we did publications and all types of things. One thing that is very unique about Medgar Evers College is that we are 81%, or I should say above 80% Black students, but 45% of our students major in STEM disciplines. And when we add in the health sciences, when we add in nursing, it's 49%. That is unheard of at an institution with a population of Black students as high as we have. And so when you talk about increasing underrepresented minorities in STEM and in the health sciences, Medgar Evers is a leader in that regard. I was selected from a national pool, and I was selected as the provost at Bowie State. And for me, it's all about the students. What can you do to make a difference in the lives of these students? But during that time, something else happened, because at the institution, some of the students did not meet the requirements for admission. And so we had a summer bridge program. And in that program, there were 30 students who still did not meet the requirements at the end of the bridge program. And so a parent called me and said, can you please do something to allow my son to be admitted. I said, I cannot break the rules. If I do it for your son, I will have to do it for all of the students. So I thought about it, and in that group of 30, 28 of them were African American males. And I said, now, what is going to happen to those young people? It is too late in the year for them to even get into the community college. I need to try to come up with something. So I came up with this idea. I'm going to do a pilot. And this pilot is to bring these students in and to give them the courses that they need developmentally. They will not be admitted into the institution. They will come in as a cohort, and such that it doesn't cost the institution anything. I used administrators who had the expertise in those areas to serve as their faculty members and their instructors. And so I taught biology. My assistant taught the freshman seminar class. A lady in the health area taught the health. She was an administrator. She taught the health course. And one of the persons that I had in my office as a faculty fellow, his area was communications. He taught the communications. So we were able to get these students in these courses where they actually were non-matriculating students. And as non-matriculating students, that meant they had to pay for this because you could not use financial aid, but you got credit for those courses as non-matriculating students. With any institution, they have this category called special student status. Did this pilot, but I knew it would not be successful without the support of the parents. So I called a meeting of the parents and I said, I will do this if I'm going to get your support. That means that we are going to have to meet on a regular basis such that these students can get what they need in order to be successful. You would have thought that it was the end of a revival meeting because the parents were so excited and they came up with the funding to support these students. The program got such attention because here we are bringing in all of these African-American males, one Latinx male, and this is a program that is being viewed as one that is successful. I had my special assistant at the time walking and saw that there were these students in the cafeteria or in the student center. It was the student center. And she said, what are you all doing here? You're supposed to be in class. Get your butt to class. I mean, this is how we dealt with these students. All of those students finished that program except one. And one of them, the young lady that was in the program, finished so well that she was invited to come to Temple University to be a student there, which she did go because of course they made it very attractive for her to go. But guess what? She came back. Quickly after I arrived at Lincoln University, one of the board members said that he had a friend that he wanted to me to meet and asked if I had an interest because the friend was interested in looking at medicinal cannabis because Pennsylvania at the time was about to put a legislation in place that would allow the growing of medicinal cannabis. So I met with the gentleman and his partners. It was a Black-owned firm, a Black-owned company, and it was all males. And that was in and of itself phenomenal to me. I had not met 3 Black males who actually were owners of a company, a startup like that. And so with that, I said, okay, we can help you, but this is how I want you to help us. So we developed an MOU with them. And when they submitted their license application, they won the highest score in the state of Pennsylvania. And I was involved with them with that project. And so coming here to Medgar Evers College, which I am now the president, it's so interesting how life is and those experiences that you have, how they prepare you for what it is that is your purpose. Because coming here to Medgar Evers, within a few weeks, there was a proposal presented for a minor in cannabis education. And surely enough, I was able to talk to them about my experience with doing the medicinal cannabis work in Pennsylvania, and they knew in me they had an advocate. I think that education actually is key to all of it. I think that when we look at health disparities in this nation, a lot of it has to do with the fact that people really aren't educated as to who they are. They're not educated about their bodies. They're not educated about how the atmosphere or the water affects them. And so I think we need to do a better job educating. And I believe that now the corporate sector is beginning to see this, and there are opportunities for us to work with the corporate sector in that regard. But one of the things, even before I knew that I was selected as the president of Medgar Evers College, I looked at what was happening in New York, and I know that Medgar Evers College has social justice in its DNA. As you know, it's named for that great civil rights activist, Medgar Wiley Evers. And so we are an institution that definitely should be a model of social justice for this nation. And I've said that in my vision statements to the campus and to anybody who will listen. And so there's opportunity as institutions of higher learning for us to actually come together with the corporate sector as partners, because we all should be on the same page as to wanting to have a healthy nation. Because of course, if you have a nation where everyone has some medical illness, it's going to be very difficult for us to move forward economically, because it's very costly, of course. If a person has a particular illness, it's much more costly than if you educate people about how to be healthy, to stay healthy, educate them about the environment and those things that might be insults to the environment that impact them. And so I would say education is key to us actually addressing health disparities in this country, and even in producing more people in the health-related fields. Because some people shy away from the health-related fields because you have to take chemistry and biology, which people always, well, you know, I'm just afraid of those STEM courses. Well, education, again, we have to change that mindset, and then we have to start in elementary school. If we start in elementary school, shifting that paradigm, I think that we will have more people who will decide to go into a major, a STEM major, and then to go into STEM careers or health-related majors and health-related careers.
Well, Dr. Ramsey, thank you so much. Believe it or not, we are out of time. Oh. But you have left us with some pearls of wisdom and some knowledge that we can pass on to others, and for students that are interested in STEM fields. And so you gave us all of that within this past hour, and I just want to thank you again so much for being here. I wish we could do a part 2, because I would love to pick your brain on the different plants and what they do. As a nurse, I'm just fascinated by that. So we'll have to do another session at another time. But thank you so much for being here, Dr. Ramsey.
Well, thank you. And of course, I'd be glad to do another session with you. But thanks a lot for the opportunity to share my passion.
Absolutely.
Hi everyone, my name is Quinaya Tufor and I'm a junior at the University of Maryland, College Park. Right now I'm studying behavior and community health and my minor is humanities, health, and medicine. When I leave UMD, I plan on going to law school to study health law and policy, and the Gloria Adoayensu Public Health Scholarship really helped me out this year because it covered one of the mandatory fees on my student account, and because I didn't have to worry about covering it, I've had a lot more time to study for my LSAT, so I'm super grateful for that. And the best advice I can give to anyone that's applying for the scholarship in the future is to just be confident and be yourself. That's all.
Maribel. I just graduated from nursing school in May of 2021. I started the new grad residency program at UC Health. It has been very difficult transitioning from a student nurse to a new graduate nurse, but my current nurse preceptors are very supporting and are providing all their knowledge so I can be successful on my own after orientation. This community has had a huge impact on my nursing career. Towards the end of my nursing school journey, this scholarship allowed me to cut back on my work hours and really focus on school. It gave me the opportunity to really focus on my advanced medical surgical course and the NCLEX examination. It also allowed me to focus on my career path by looking into residency programs and taking the extra time to work on the residency program applications. Dr. Wilson, she was very helpful. She provided me with feedback regarding interviews, and I put that into practice when it was time for me to interview for the different residency program positions. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities the scholarship gave me, and I hope to be more part of this community in the future. Some advice for nursing students regarding residency programs is to do the research and make sure the program is accredited. Also, get as much experience as you can as a nursing assistant or a patient care provider before you start as a registered nurse. Having that experience really helps ease the transition into the nursing profession. I wish I would have started working as a tech earlier. I did start working a few months before I graduated, and it was very helpful now, especially now that I'm a new grad nurse. Also, make sure you have a good support system. Nursing school is tough, as well as transitioning into the workforce is also very tough. And you will feel like you don't know anything, but having that good support system is very helpful. I still talk to my nursing school friends, and my family is very supportive. Also, make sure to ask questions. We are new grad nurses, and so we don't know it all, so it's always good to ask. I know I ask a billion questions when I'm with my nurse preceptor, and she loves it. She wants me to ask all the questions, and most of the time she knows how to answer that question. If she doesn't, we will ask the charge nurse or other nurses on the floor. So the big thing is, like, if you don't know it, if you don't know something, always ask for help. But yeah, I wish you guys the best of luck, and I hope to see you guys working soon. Thank you.
Welcome everyone again, and thank you for your support of our third annual scholarship fundraiser. Before we get started, allow me to reintroduce our panelists. Kimberly Ennix-Sandhu is an aerospace engineer at NASA Armstrong Flight Center. Dr. Vivienne McDaniel is a nursing professor at Aspen University and a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant for James Madison University and Sentinel University. Larry Rentz Jr. is a senior at University of Florida, majoring in computer engineering. Dr. Rhonda Broady is a family practitioner at Westchester Family Practice at Penn Medicine. Dr. Jasmine Mars is the Clinical Director of Pediatrics at Complete Care Health Network in rural southern New Jersey. Welcome, everyone. So before we get started, throughout the course of our discussion, we may be using some terms when discussing certain topics and that you may be unfamiliar with. So Dr. Vivienne McDaniel, our diversity, equity, and inclusion expert, will briefly review these terms before we get started.
Hello, everyone. The terms that we will discuss or that we may be using in our discussion will be diversity, equity versus equality, microaggressions, disparities versus inequities, social determinants of health and education, inclusion and belonging, and cultural humility.
So my first question is for our aerospace engineer, Kimberly. Kimberly, can you describe your current role at NASA and the project you led on the first Mars science instrument landing?
I am currently working on SOFIA, which is a stratospheric observatory, and I am the lead system safety integrator for the science instruments. But I also that also includes working on the airframe, anything to do with in and around the aircraft. And we deploy all over the world. And it's an observatory. It's about the size, the telescope is the size of the Hubble telescope. And we do nighttime flights 4 times a week. That's what I currently do. My position prior to starting with SOFIA, I was the system safety engineer for testing the radar that they used in the landing sequence for the Mars Curiosity rover. And it was the very first rover to land on Mars. And when I say first rover of its type, this particular rover is a mobile laboratory, and it is the size of a Mini Cooper. And most people think all of them were the same size. No, all of the rovers prior to that were the size of the wheel of this particular rover that we sent in. And the latest one that went to Mars here this past year, and it had a helicopter on it. That is now the second one that is currently there operating on Mars. So, yep, that's what I do for NASA.
That is so exciting, Kimberly. Can you talk more about your journey to where you are to become an engineer? And if you could talk a little bit about networks and professional networks and any professional organizations that you may have been involved in to kind of help you along the way.
Yes, sure. I left high school intending on going into art school, and I was not accepted into any of the art schools that I applied to. And so that left me kind of adrift. My mother sent me back to her hometown, which is Knoxville, Tennessee, to her sister. My aunt said, she took me to an engineer with Tennessee Valley Authority. And the engineer said, well, if you're good at math, why don't you give engineering a try? And that's how I ended up applying for their engineering school my first semester there. So that's kind of a roundabout way as to how I even got into engineering. I was just naturally good at math and science. And the strangest thing happened my very first week there as an official engineering student. It was my second quarter there. I run into this elderly man, and I shake his hand. I said, yes, I'm just started. here last semester, and he says, "Oh, what did you matriculate in?" And not even expecting me to say engineering. He expected me to say a zillion other things. Engineering comes out of my mouth, and that was the end. He hits the ceiling. What? How do I not know you are in engineering? How do I not know you are an engineering student? What happened? They're supposed to tell me about all of them. And I go, huh? And of course, I'm like, what did I just say? He says, how did you get into engineering school? I said, I just walked in off the street and applied. Why? He was like, what? Come to find out, this man, Fred Brown, was the head of the Minority Engineering Scholarship Program. And he offered me a scholarship right then and there on the spot. And that's what got me solidly into engineering, because all of these resources right there miraculously opened up to me. He had started the Minority Engineering Scholarship Program there at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And so basically I found my tribe. He introduced us to National Society of Black Engineers. Nobody even told me about that until he spoke about it, and all of their activities. And then co-oping. You could get a fellowship, you could co-op, work as a student engineer. These are all the things that he created for the African-American students to know all of this stuff, because again, it was just an omission. We were not being led to know that. So, and it was very important. It was very important. We were there together as a team, and we helped ushered ourselves through. And so one of the things, like I said, with co-oping is that when that's how I got to NASA. I was actually a student co-op for NASA Marshall. NASA Marshall there in Huntsville, Alabama is the nearest NASA facility to University of Tennessee. And just right quick, one of the interesting things about that particular job was, I don't know if everybody saw Hidden Figures, and you know that they had the African-American women in their own team, and they were mathematicians. And they didn't use this terminology in the movie, but basically they were the coders. They coded. They taught themselves how to code that big IBM machine that took up an entire room, so big they had to knock a hole in the wall to get it into the room. That's what I worked on.
Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing your journey. There's so many pieces, to your story. And one of the things I want to focus on right now is finding your tribe. I cannot overestimate the importance of being able to find your tribe. And you found that through the help of a mentor. And then also, once you were connected, then he opened up a whole nother set of doors. So finding your tribe, for the students listening, it is so important. And with that, I would like to ask our student on the panel, Larry, who is a computer engineering major, if you could talk a little bit about professional organizations such as NSBE and how that has helped you, and talk a little bit about your journey. And you've had some internships, or most recently at Microsoft. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
For sure, yeah. I can definitely relate to a lot of things that Kimberly was saying. For me, I was also a very kind of shy person coming into college freshman year. And one thing my dad always told me was try to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And so I really took that and really tried to take that advice he gave me and really try to explore opportunities around. So NSBE provided a lot of those opportunities for me. That tribe aspect that was brought up, that NSBE brought that for me. Off the back, I just felt so welcome to be a part of that organization, and they provided me so many opportunities. First with mentorship, I was able to find some of my first mentors through NSBE that carried me all the way to now to help me get internships, teach me valuable skills outside the classroom, and just teach me how to navigate just how to be an engineer and like how to really be successful through that. Networking, or a lot of networking opportunities with NSBE from having, companies come out and, pull their diversity from NSBE chapters and NSBE organizations. Alumni, oftentimes you can find lots of NSBE alumni who are currently very successful Black engineers at top companies like NASA, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, all of them. And also just the members in general. There are a lot of really cool people that you meet being a part of NSBE. And then having that network of peers is also very important, because oftentimes you go to these large companies and there's not, a lot of diversity there, but you can often find out that the ones that are there are often a part of NSBE. And so it's often just a really welcoming experience, knowing that they've gone through a lot of the same things you've gone through, and they can understand your perspective as well. Another big thing is leadership. One thing my parents always stressed to me is that, me and my sisters, that we are leaders, and to really always put ourselves out there to be leaders. And NSBE provided opportunities to do that, as far as joining the executive boards and leading your chapter. And with doing that, you get to, host different events, connect with new members, and also, having responsibility of taking on the responsibilities that your role requires. And so those really helped me to be more outgoing. I'm definitely, I would say, more of an introverted person, but that really helped me kind of get out of my shell and really be able to learn how to reach out to people, and always just kind of, lead by example. Outreach was something that I really took away from being a part of NSBE. It kind of sparked the interest. One thing we really usually do is kind of go out within our general communities and provide outreach opportunities, of whether it's like kind of showing them the things we do as engineers, how it's like being on, a college campus, and just really exposing, the general community about technology and opportunities within technology. And that's something that I've really, that NSBE really sparked an interest in me, and I kind of already do outside of, NSBE as an organization. And then just general friendship. My NSBE friends are some of the best friends I have that I met in college. We studied together through courses, and we help each other, prepare for interviews and help each other get internships. And we also have fun outside of that by going, to football games and parties and things like that. And so it's just really, really welcoming to have those type of people, especially for me going to the predominantly white institution where there's not a lot of, minorities in general, let alone minorities in STEM. So that was also just a big thing that NSBE provided to me. And again, NSBE provided me all my internships. I've had an opportunity to intern at IBM, Verizon, and also Microsoft this past summer. And so NSBE directly helped me get those opportunities to intern at these very top tech companies. And I was even fortunate enough to get a full-time offer with Microsoft after graduation because of this. So I can't say enough how big NSBE has been for me in my journey to becoming, a very, successful engineer one day.
Yeah.
Larry, thank you so much for sharing that, and congratulations, by the way, on the job offer. And this information is so helpful as other students and your peers, navigate through their educational and professional journeys. I would like to turn to Dr. Harris and Dr. Broady with regard to the benefit of professional networks. And if you can share what influenced you to become physicians, and what was your experience matriculating at an HBCU, and the professional networks there.
I'll go first. Thank you for having me on the panel, Sherry. Appreciate it. So what brought me into medicine was I always was interested in biology, and as a child. And my younger brother was born with Down syndrome, and having him in the house, seeing him developmentally different than other children just sparked my interest in terms of like, wow, this is really interesting. Luckily, he doesn't have a lot of health problems that Down syndrome children can have, but it just, piqued my curiosity about medicine in general. And for the fact that, seeing his challenges combined with my love of helping people, combined with my love of science, and combined with like I enjoy working with other people. I guess you could say medicine or being a doctor kind of just like checked off a lot of boxes for me. Um, and then in terms of matriculating at a HBCU, so I attended Xavier University of Louisiana. And I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a predominantly white grade school and high school experience. So, I had good friends there, but in terms of the overall environment, I would say people were friendly and encouraging, but it was a different kind of experience being at Xavier, and I would assume most people experience at HBCU because you get a sense of belonging, I guess you could say, like that people are really they are really invested in your success. Now, of course, you do have to do your part. You have to study and make wise choices, and of course, you want to have fun too. But you do have to do your part. But people are focused towards your success. So yeah, I mean, I know that we're going to go further into it and I can give you more examples, but I would say that in essence is why Xavier was the right choice for me, and as well as the fact that they are highly ranked at putting African Americans in medical school. It was just the wise choice for me, and I was looking to go. Well, I would say far away. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and Xavier University of Louisiana is in New Orleans, and I was very much happy to have to experience life in a interesting city. So
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Dr. Broady, how about you?
Okay, well, for me, like related to getting into medicine, like my dad in his early years was a biology teacher. My mom, education also, and both of them actually attended HBCUs. So I think whenever I was growing up, I would see how they loved their HBCU, which was Norfolk State in Virginia, and I was like, wow, I said they really love their school. And then from time to time I would like just look around, and my dad had his biology books around, and I would start reading it, and I loved science, and I was like, you know what, I'm very much into medicine or some type of science. Now my dad actually also attended Meharry for dental school. So he was in the Army and got a scholarship to the dental school. So whenever we moved to St. Louis, he would open his practice, and me and my brothers, I have three brothers, we were able to like be a part of his practice, his family dentistry. And my mom, was the assistant slash billing slash cleaner, everything. And we actually would help out when we were growing up, and we thought it was like, hey, this is what we're supposed to do. And so I just remember being in the office a lot, and I'm like, well, I like science, but I do not like dealing with like the teeth. So it's like, what else can I do? And when I was in high school, like guidance counselor kind of got me more interested in different locations around the country, like trying to go to different summer programs. So I was interested in like there was a University of Missouri. I did some research. I did some enrichment programs, and it just further allowed me to see different aspects of medicine. So then, I pursued following the dream of going to an HBCU when the guidance counselor told me about Louisiana. And I remember just hearing, I'm like, Louisiana? I said, I don't think I'm going to go all the way to Louisiana for school. I'm in Missouri. I said, my parents are here. But, then it kind of, it allowed me to just realize, okay, I need to venture out. So whenever I learned about Xavier, I realized like all the positivity that was there. And I said, well, this is a safe place to go to like really learn. And it was like the best decision I ever made. And like to this day, like a lot of the students, all of my friends, we stay connected, and it's just a strong bond, which helped me to pursue like more with my quest for med school. So that was like my start, being able to really like observed a lot of aspects of medicine.
Dr. Broady, thanks so much. And for our students listening, before I move on to Dr. McDaniel, whether or not you attended HBCU, the takeaway is, finding your tribe and the importance of professional networks and how they can help you. So Dr. McDaniel, as Black nurses, we belong to several organizations together. And in your opinion, where do you see the benefit of being a part of a professional organization?
The benefits are great. I belong to, and I am the vice president of the National Black Nurses Association for the Central Virginia chapter of the National Black Nurses Association. And I am also on the board for the Virginia Nurses Association, which is the state body for the American Nurses Association. And I'm on so many different, I am on so many different, well, not on their boards, but I am a member of so many different associations and organizations. And the benefit is that it can lead to increased awareness, especially of nursing issues, and you gain support for collective actions that have to do with nurses. And most of the organizations, they will have different areas that you can either volunteer in, but the thing that I find most beneficial is that camaraderie, the networking, that feeling of belonging. Remember, I talked to you about belonging, inclusion, and belonging. And it's not just being invited into the organization or welcomed into the organization. It is being a part of it. So that's all I want to say about that. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So with that, I'd like to shift gears and discuss topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to ask everyone about barriers. Barriers you've experienced as people of color in your academic journeys, academic or professional journeys, and what advice you would give to other minority students pursuing careers in those areas. We'll start with Dr. Harris.
Thank you. So I would say for barriers, the thing that was a bit challenging was when there's a part of medical school where you're out you're seeing patients on your own. And the very first time that happened, it's a new thing. I mean, you have a little bit of training ahead of time, but then you're kind of out there and it's a brand new thing. So for my very first, it's called rotation. My very first rotation, you're being asked questions about different medical problems, different diseases, and I may not have had the right answer, but I can say that, every day I was going back to my books, learning what I needed to learn, and then just so I could kind of, have the right answer the next time. At the end of the rotation, I got what I didn't think was a good grade. And I advocated for myself because I said, wait a minute, I know that in the beginning I wasn't good, but I did make up for my loss, from my deficit. So you need to really make sure that that's being accounted for. So I think from the point of view of, not everyone is perfect and you're not always going to be straight A, but you need to make sure that you advocate for yourself, because if you don't, then no one will. And I knew my goal was to be a physician. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to just not graduate or not get through this thing. So again, I think the important thing there is just knowing, not being afraid, opening, like going to who you need to go to let them know, hey, I'm in trouble, or hey, this is not right. We need to take some steps to kind of rectify the situation.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Dr. Broady?
Yes, I kind of want to tag along with what Dr. Harris had said related to like the barriers. I think we because we both attended the same undergrad. I definitely had experiences where, like, I know, I knew I went away to Georgia once, and I was in a small town, and I knocked on the door, like, here, I'm here, I'm here for my rotation, and there, I could tell, like, it was kind of like, oh, and I felt it. And I said, you know what? I know I'm only here for a little while. I'm here just to learn enough so that I can, like, move on and be able to help me in the future. And I knew that I may not have been so welcomed, but I just took all of it that I could, and then helped it for later, because I've definitely had other experiences, as a practicing physician on. Just trying to, I guess, have people trust enough and know that I'm there for them, and it's learning experience, and I've grown a lot. I would just say for all the students, reach out to anyone that will help you. But sometimes you can't do it alone.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. Broady. Dr. McDaniel?
You have to have a mentor. Let me just say that. You have to have a mentor. Even if you are a student in school, before you start your career, you have to have a mentor. Mentors, let me put an S on that. More than one mentor, because of course you have more than one class. So just mentors from different backgrounds. And also you need to have the peace of mind that you can do this. You set your goal, and then you make the decision. You cannot, if you know what I mean. You cannot say that you cannot. So you cannot afford to cannot. You have to do it. So as far as the lessons that I learned along the way, it really was just that you cannot go it alone. You have to have mentors. You have to be determined. You have to persevere. Never give up, because if that is if what you want to do is what you have set your goal for, always finish it. I used to let people really tell me, and I would listen to them when they say, "Oh, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't do that. Who do you think you are that you would even think that you can do that?" I used to listen to those people. And so you cannot let anybody steal your confidence. And it's up to you to build it. And just forge forward. Do not let anybody tell you that you cannot do it. I did not let anything impede me from starting out with my associates in nursing first, then going to my bachelor's, then my master's, and then my doctorate. And I started, and I shouldn't tell you students this because I want you to start straight out of high school. I did not start until I was in my mid 40s. So you can do this.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. McDaniel. That was just so inspirational. I'd like to turn once again to Dr. McDaniel, who is the diversity, equity, and inclusion expert on this panel, and talk about national strategies. So can you talk about national strategies in place to improve the numbers to achieve a state of health equity?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. Well, I can talk to you more about what's trending in nursing. And one of the things that is happening right now is that we have the Campaign for Action, and we have a new Future of Nursing report that just came out, the Future of Nursing Report 2020-2030, and its primary focus is on health equity. And we just found out recently about some of the things that were keeping indigenous people or Native Americans and from coming into nursing. And it's too much for me to talk about, but just know that there's something that has been put into place to improve that. We're looking at starting with children even in the second grade, because this is where you are saying what you want to do. And so developing clubs throughout all of these professions, STEM, nursing, for physicians, is something that needs to start early. And a lot of the national organizations are now doing that. You have our president, who, by the way, is the president of the American Nurses Association, who is the first male nurse to become a president of our organization. But not only that, he's the third Black person in a 125-year history of the American Nurses Association. When you have the opportunity to be an advocate and to play a role in improving and increasing the numbers, please just do so. And you can do that again by joining organizations. The American Medical Association is doing tremendous work right now. And just think now, this all happened really after George Floyd, after the murder of George Floyd. And so organizations that you never thought would be doing things at the national level are doing things to increase the numbers and get more people into nursing. But remember, these are people who have not even considered going to college yet. And then students that are in college that may have changed their major, as we mentioned before. I just encourage everyone to please, whatever you can do to improve or increase the numbers, please do your part and be an advocate. But there are several national strategies out there.
Thank you, Dr. McDaniel. And the strategies that you mentioned are, as you noted, applicable across all disciplines and across all sectors. So thank you so much for that. And we are almost at time, but before we go, final words from the panel, I will give to Larry Rentz.
Thank you so much. So what I'll say is three things. First, try to be the best student you can be, not a perfect student. It's not about getting all A's and, being perfect and not ever getting a B or a C. Sometimes about being the best student you can be. And that's all determined on what it is for you. It could be, maybe I'm getting, maybe A's and B's of being a leader on campus and being involved in multiple orgs. That's what it was for me. I wasn't always a perfect A student. I was sometimes a C student, but I was always make sure I left an impact on the people around me and the larger organizations on my campus. Two is, like I said before, you have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You only grow being uncomfortable, pushing your limits to what you can learn, pushing, yourself to be outgoing and try new things. Sometimes I know a lot of people, for them, it's like they don't know what they want to do. The only we can do is by trying a whole bunch of different things and seeing what you like and what you don't like. And the only way you can do that is putting yourself out there and being uncomfortable. And then the last thing I would say is you once you figure out what you really want to do, sometimes that really aligns with, your why. Need to find your why. What do you like to do? Why do you like to do it? Once you find your why, you can just hold on to it. And you hold on to it because you're going to have a lot of challenges, like we said, whether it's people not believing in you, these very difficult classes you're taking. And then just sometimes it's the self-doubt you might have about yourself. But if you hold on to that why, it really helps you overcome a lot of those things. So like I said, be the best student you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, and then, find your why.
Well, that's our time for today, but we hope that you enjoyed our program. For the extended version of our interview with Dr. Ramsey and with our esteemed panel, you can find those sessions here on YouTube. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Institute for Health and Social Equity, we want to personally thank our summa cum laude level sponsors, Mr. Carlos Huertas and Ruth Amador, Mr. Harold Wilson, and Mr. and Mrs. Frank and Marion Johnson, and our magna cum laude sponsor, Dr. Rhonda Broady. We ask for your financial support through sponsorship or donation using the information at the bottom of your screen. For updates, please follow us here on YouTube or Facebook or on our website at instituteforequity.org.